Welcome to my Fearland, Mr. Bond.
Fear.
Time to die.
Fear. When did you get that? That's cute.
A little while ago.
Nice.
Here you go, Puchita.
Back to the shelf. We're back for another FEARcast, which
We're back, a fear story.
Which at this point is almost more like a bi-yearly. It's been like 6 months.
It's been a while, man.
We're both busier.
Busier,
different priorities, lots of stuff. But
we're back now.
Yeah, update. We have watched things together in the last year. We just didn't, coordinate a thing until now. We also said that we were going to talk about One Piece last time, and I feel like we got it because I'm like here on the volume book maybe. I don't know. I'm in Punk Hazard right now, so.
Point to me to where you don't recognize the character.
I don't recognize this guy in the background, unless that's Virgo.
That's Law.
Oh, really? Well, I'm on about that book, yeah. So, I'm about...
What chapter, what's the last chapter you read?
Well, I'm still watching it, so...
What's the last episode you
I'm on like episode 603
That's,
or
no, but
4.
What's the last thing that happened?
Oh, last thing that happened, they're in the factory going to beat up Caesar. Like, all of them have gathered together.
Okay, so you're like...
Oh, spoilers. Vague spoilers.
Spoilers for episode 698.
Yeah.
So you're like, I guess... Hang on. He's like probably right here-ish.
What is this?
He's
yeah.
Like right there, right about when they're about to start the Monet fight, I think.
Yeah, ish. But yeah, so, I mean, we have a couple things to talk about.
There's One Peak.
One Peak. We have several peak things to talk about today. We have One Peak, the One Peak.
Madam Web.
We have Madam Web, which is peak, terrible.
What do you mean? It's
peak.
It's simply peak.
It's simply peak.
It's simply peak.
Dune and Dune Part 2. I said them... So, I don't know, where do you want to start?
Let's start with One Piece since we're already talking
fair enough.
And I have lots of One Piece prompts that we can just pull out and show you. Like this one.
Yeah, only you hold the One Piece props, because last time did not go well when I picked up the One Piece props.
What do you mean? It went fine. Ignore that crate with only a bottom, no prop.
So yeah, last time we did this, it was like September, August, and we didn't want to talk about live action One Piece because the actor strike was still going on. The writer strike and the actor strike
both of
were
them
still going on at that time. And so we were like, yeah, I'll talk about it later. Basically, long story short, for anyone who isn't following me, I got into live action One Piece back in September, I think, when it came out.
It came out in August. I watched it first.
Yeah,
and then everyone else watched it because I was like, guys, it's a good adaptation. And I watched it, and now I'm halfway through the series, roughly, a little more. It's amazing how it happens when you listen to your friends and recommendations.
I always knew I would like One Piece. But it was just such a long thing that I didn't have time for a while.
Little did you know that its length is after you get into it.
Oh yeah, once
its
you get
length
into it,
its length becomes a good thing.
It's a feature,
because it means
you
get to have more One Piece.
Well, now the One Piece conundrum of you get into it enough that you're like,
there's not enough.
There's
never enough
One Piece conundrum.
That's why most people just start it over again.
Yeah. Well, that's what
I've been done like 1 or 2 rewatches.
Yeah, I'll probably do a read through at some point, and then of course the live action eventually when it gets a season 2.
The live action, we briefly touched on it, but the live action good.
It's very good. It makes
most of its changes I'm okay with. I don't know if I'd say okay with. So like the biggest changes are we find out Garp and Luffy's relationship much earlier than we do in the manga, and
they changed some stuff around with like the Straw Hat, like when the Straw Hats backstories happen, who tells them, like how many of the Straw Hats actually know each other's backstories, etc.
It's mostly my
like in terms of like large scale scope changes. Those are the big ones. There's some smaller ones like Krieg doesn't attack.
Krieg
the Baratier.
taking a bigger L and not even making it to the Baratier.
Yeah. Krieg doesn't attack the Baratier, Arlong does. And it's like that affects the East Blue story as it's told, but it doesn't actually affect the long scale story because Krieg is one of the few pirates from like the East Blue
who doesn't
come back.
Yeah. I think going through the arcs, like so after finishing live action, I started watching the anime, and I started right about where I started where I had left off, which was in the middle of Orangetown, like back half of Orangetown. And that's what, from when I had tried to watch it like a few years back, and at that point I was still in school, I didn't have as much time, and I didn't realize that the proper way to watch the anime is like 5 episodes at a time.
Oh yeah, no, you're not supposed to watch it one episode.
Like I was
even when you catch up, you're not supposed to watch it one episode a week. You're supposed to take those 2 to 3 weeks off so you can watch it 3 episodes in a row.
Right, yeah. So it was like I had been watching it at the beginning, and it was just the pacing. The pacing of the anime was too bad for me to get into it. I needed the way live action was paced.
For reference, hang on, let me pull this up. So for reference, the events of the first two and a half arcs of One Piece fit in this single volume. Mm-hmm. Kind of thick, but that's because it's literally 3 volumes in one.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3. That same amount of storytelling takes up to 20 episodes to tell in the anime.
And 2 2.5 to tell in live action. It's roughly.
And remember, and keep in mind, One Piece chapters are not long. They are 18 pages at most, and more than half of them are just pictures.
Yeah. The anime just extends things a lot.
Sometimes for like if you're in the Wano arc for good, because apparently the Wano arc is like just has some crazy, absolutely buck wild animation in there.
Another arc that I feel like extends things pretty well. We're just kind of gonna jump around. Is Loguetown, because
because Loguetown was supposed to be longer in the manga.
Yeah.
But Oda rushed it because he wanted to get the Straw Hats into the New World by chapter 100. Not the New World. He wanted to get them into the Grand Line by chapter 100.
Yeah.
So like he had a bunch, and like this is like well established. Like he had a bunch of ideas that had to get cut from the manga, put into light novels, then got added back into the anime.
Yeah, the Daddy Masterson.
Daddy Master, how Zoro got his how he got his sword is explained, but like I don't think they explain how he gets to Yubashiri. Mm-hmm. Like they show him getting Wado Ichimonji, and then they show him getting the Sundai Kitetsu, the Demon Cutter 1. I don't know what they call it in the dubs or whatever.
Right.
They might call it.
I mean, I didn't watch the dub either.
But he gets Sundai Kitetsu, and then he's like, I'll take it. And then I think they cut away, and they don't show that he gets another sword called Yubashiri from the shop owner.
Yeah.
Because they didn't have enough time, because Oda didn't have enough time when they did the manga.
But then by comparison, arcs like Syrup Village was insufferable.
Syrup Village is most both in the manga, but also especially in the anime, Syrup Village is the breaking point, because it's not in the manga and anime, I will say, it is not a very well set up arc. Mm-hmm. Captain Kuro is not a great villain because he's set up to be the intelligent villain as opposed to Buggy or Arlong or Krieg, who are much more brute force.
Yeah.
However, his intelligence never matters because his plan does not revolve around careful scheming. It revolves around a bunch of pirates attack the village, and he's the only survivor that can confirm that he's the sole inheritor of Kaya's will.
Having watched the live action, I knew they changed the plan, but I was shocked at how quickly in the anime Luffy and them just stumble upon Kuro talking about.
Yes, they literally for
the smartest
what is confirmed to be the second smartest character in the entire East Blue. Third being Nami, and first being the second in command of Shanks' crew. Boy is sure pretty dumb to allow himself to be overheard by
he's just like
three
openly
dumbasses.
Yeah, that whole arc. I actually really like that arc in the live action. I like the suspense building.
Yeah,
I like the horror elements.
Yeah, like because they're trapped instead of taking place like on a beach.
A boring beach hill.
Yeah,
it's in Kai's mansion.
It's in Kai's mansion, so it's like they're getting chased around, and they have to use like their intelligence. They have to use the fact that they actually care about the house and know all its secrets, as opposed to Kuro, who has only been there for show because he wants to get Kaya's money and doesn't actually care about the house or her.
Really, truthfully, the only upside of Syrup Village, like I'll say I like it better in live action than in the anime. The only real thing the anime, and I assume also the manga because it's pretty, does better is like Usopp's better developed in the source. That's really the one flaw with the way live action is.
Yeah, that's kind of my biggest complaint with the live action, at least of that arc, is that like Usopp gets kind of shunted in his own arc.
Yeah.
And I think that's just more of a consequence of why they put Zoro's backstory there.
Yeah.
Why would they have Zoro's backstory revealed there when in the manga we see it here, and in the anime I think we see it here.
We could have easily gotten Zoro's backstory in either the first episode
or when he fights Mihawk,
or when
it matters.
It's weird that
it matters most when he gets to Mihawk, because that's when he's like, if I don't prove myself here, everything me and my friend from my backstory who died is meaningless.
It feels like they didn't know where to put the backstory.
Yeah.
And I remember even watching the live action episodes, I'm like, weird place for a Zoro backstory, but alright.
Especially because it's such a nothing. He's stuck in a well.
Yeah, he gets stuck in a well for a little while just to give them some flimsy plot reason for his backstory.
Well, because that's always the thing with early East Blue. They always need some excuse, both in the live action and in the anime and manga. They need some excuse for why Luffy and Zoro, with their immense power, don't just immediately stop the problem.
I mean, this happens all the way through the series. It's shocking. The arc of the timeline of most One Piece arcs are group gets somewhere, group splits up, subplots happen, group reunites, and they go.
And then they fight the big, and then they either break off to do their own individual fights, or
they team up to fight
with Luffy breaking off either through his own stupidity or to go fight the big bad.
There's usually at least some kind of, even in the I would say that was something I liked about Thriller Bark, was that was one of the few arcs where they actually all fought the big guy together.
And they stay together way more.
Yeah.
They stay together in groups of 3, 4, and 5.
Thriller Bark is actually kind of the perfect example of a well-paced arc, in the sense that if that arc was any longer, it would have overstayed its welcome.
It's 2 big volumes, which is to say 6 small volumes, around 25 to 50. I think it's 50 to 30 episodes. 25, it's somewhere in the ballpark of 25 to 50 episodes in the anime.
Yeah.
Which is very reasonable because it's not a short arc, but it's not a long arc.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to go arc by arc and briefly talk about my feelings on each arc.
Or do you mean saga? Because you got the East Blue Saga, the Baratie.
See, it's weird because some of the sagas have arcs within them and some of the sagas don't.
Well, because Thriller Bark is a saga of 1 arc.
Yeah.
Skypeia is a saga of 2 arcs. And then Water 7 is a saga of 4 arcs.
See, okay.
Enies, Water 7, the train to Enies Lobby, and then and then back to Water 7.
Yeah.
And they classify it as Water 7 arc, the post Enies Lobby arc.
So I'm gonna go. When you ask whether I'm gonna go by arc or saga, it's gonna go by however I've separated them off in my head.
However you've watched it on Netflix.
Basically, yeah.
That's another thing. For some reason,
Netflix's seasons listing is so wacky.
I have to only assume they get because this has happened, I think, with iCarly too, where Netflix airs them, I think, according to the production code.
I guess, yeah.
So it's I think I think in the anime, these two were produced together, and these two were produced together. So they're treated as two distinct arcs, even though they're basically four
I also
or five.
noticed that as I went through it on Netflix, they started splitting them up into smaller and smaller chunks.
Yeah.
As in, East Blue is all one chunk on the Netflix seasons, and then after East Blue, it's like, okay, each Alabasta arc has its own little chunk.
Yeah.
And then by the time you get to Water 7,
Which is so funny because like for the Baroque work saga, aka the Alabasta arc, because they when they do it that way, you get arcs like Little Garden that are like 10 episodes, and then you get arcs like
Alabasta.
Alabasta are 20, and then you get arcs like Little Drum Island, which are less than 5.
Oh yeah. So I'll just start because I was just talking about how I think Syrup Village was improved in the live action. That's still my least favorite arc in the anime. I was watching it on a plane and literally falling asleep.
It's really that is always people like to I feel like that is the arc that got One Piece the reputation of it gets good after X, Y, and Z episodes, because that is the arc. That is the arc most people have struggled to get through.
And I would also argue that Baratie also drags a little bit in the anime. Not nearly as bad as Syrup Village, but there's characters like Pearl, where I'm just like, okay, what is this mini-boss of a mini-boss? Can we get to the real shit?
Are you telling me? Wait a minute. You hate my boy Pearl? My boy Pearl with his giant shield body and his light-up pearls that for some reason catch on fire? I love Pearl just for how stupid he is.
Yeah.
Like, nothing about his theme makes sense.
He's just like a dude. And so that's what I feel like the live action... I definitely...
It's very streamlined, and it's very much like they're taking the very episodic nature of One Piece and turning it into an overarching story.
Yeah.
And there is an overarching story of One Piece. It's just told episodically.
Especially in the East Blue arc.
East Blue, you get the Romance Dawn arc, and then you get the Syrup Village arc, and then you get Baratie, and then and it culminates in Arlong, where you get this whole mini narrative of, oh, can we trust Nami?
Yeah.
Oh, what's Nami's deal? And you find out Nami's deal, and then you have the big battle, and then you finish off by going to Loguetown, basically leveling up.
Right.
Everybody gets like a little level up.
I can tell you if I continue to watch the anime without watching the live action first, there's no way I would have made it through Syrup Village. That would have been a hard wall. I definitely needed a live action to get me live action to get me to Arlong Park to make me invested in all the characters. I already liked Nami just from Orangetown, but like.
Nami T is always a great character, and you can immediately tell if someone actually likes One Piece based on if they like Nami and her introductory arc. Live action Syrup Village, Baratie. I really like how the Nami leaving with Arlong scene is. I do think I have a lot of complaints about. I have some very legitimate complaints about One Piece live action, and then some more. They do well, actually, like, nerdy. Like these are completely irrelevant to the quality of the live action. I'm just a nitpicky nerd. How they handled Nami and Arlong is not one of them. I think they handled that really well.
And a lot of that is Emily Rudd is so.
Emily Rudd is great. Emily Rudd is probably the best actor on that show.
I think she's given the most to work with in that first season. And portray Luffy, Inaki is the most given the hardest character to portray.
Yeah, and it is a miracle that they found someone to play who is literally just Luffy. Yeah, but they managed to find it.
I love behind the scenes footage and interviews of them. I don't know if you follow Inaki on social media. He's so goofy.
He's so Luffy.
He posts manatees.
He's goofy like Luffy.
Yeah, he's just like a goofball. And every behind the scenes clip, it's just perfect.
Everyone in that show is pretty much pitch perfect casting. Not arguably except for the child actors, but you don't see them that much. Even then, most of them are pretty decent. They I think
Usopp's child actor.
Usopp's child actor is who's whose executive's child are you?
Right.
Whose friend on the production are you?
But yeah, I love, like, when Nami leaves with Arlong in the live action, it's like Emily Rudd's performance is so good. Like, I didn't...
She gives it a coldness that makes you think for a second, like, oh, maybe she never cared about that.
But then also her micro expressions say so much.
Yeah, and also the fact, and also like her actions, like she tells Arlong, she makes Arlong throw Luffy in the water, which almost drowns him, but also explicitly doesn't kill him.
Yeah.
So there's a chance to save him. She makes Arlong leave. There's so much to like. There's a lot to read in there.
And her intentions are so clear from the performance. Yeah. Like, what the character... Like, I didn't need to know her whole backstory until it was revealed in Arlong Park because her...
You already get a sense of, like, what it is. It's like, there's some deep... Like, especially with her, like, I hate pirates.
Yeah,
there's some very deep... There's clearly, especially given the way the world is, there's definitely some very obvious trauma there. And they don't go into until they need
I feel like they knew they had such... I feel like they knew that Emily Rudd was like one of their, like, that they could trust her with a lot of this stuff because they gave Nami a lot of scenes that she just doesn't have.
Yeah.
Like, they gave her that scene with Kaya in Syrup Village.
Yeah.
They gave her, like, a lot more bonding moments with Zoro than I feel like she gets in the...
Most of the Zoro-Nami bonding moments happen kind of in Loguetown, where Zoro has to be constantly lending Nami money,
right?
And she's just keeping a tab of everything he owes her.
But yeah, those are just the live action arcs. I think Syrup Village, Baratier, I personally kind of like them better in the live action, but each version has their own strengths and.
Speaking of, I just want to take a moment. So. I love the One Piece live action. I think it is a astoundingly competent production. Mm-hmm. I have some complaints, and sadly, chief among them are the changes they made to the Arlong Park.
Yeah, Arlong Park is better in the source. For sure.
It's better in the source, and I just have to ask why they did some of the things they did. Why didn't Nojiko know what Nami was doing?
Yeah. The live action itself didn't even have an explanation for that. Like, they have their conversation where Nami...
For some reason, in the live action, her and the entire village legitimately think that she decided to turn her back on her mother and village for the person who murdered her when she was a 5-year-old child and didn't know better.
Yeah. It's weird. And they have that scene where Nami tells Nojiko what's really going on, and Nojiko asks, "Why didn't you tell us?" And Nami gives the most non-answer ever. It's like even the writers could not figure out why they wrote it that
versus way. Versus in the source material where she does tell Nojiko, but she also lies to the rest of the village because she knows if they knew, they wouldn't put up with it. They would not allow her to make this deal. They would go and attack Arlong and get themselves killed.
Yeah. It's really, I feel like...
But they find out the deal anyway and put up with the lie for Nami's sake.
I feel like it's only done that way.
I have to assume it was done that... I have to assume it was done that way in the sense of adding more conflict.
Yeah, or just because, the live action... So in the anime, Usopp gets to Nami first, right?
And there's actually a big, like... Oh, he's actually Nami a friend because it seems like Usopp. It looks like she kills Usopp.
Yeah, it looks like she kills. But
then it's revealed actually no, she stabbed her own hand to make it seem like Usopp.
But since they took that part out of the live action, because in the live action they don't have that split up to Arlong.
They all arrive on Arlong.
Which I think that is an improvement.
That is an improvement.
Not having them show up in like clumps.
Yeah.
But the downside is that I guess because they cut that Usopp moment.
I think you could have still had like them arrive on the island and then Usopp gets like
there's absolutely better.
Usopp runs into the Arlong pirates first, gets like scared and then Nami has to cover.
There's absolutely better ways they could have done it. Like me personally,
another issue I have, and this might just be a personal like. If Oda wanted Luffy to know the Straw Hats' backstories, he would have told him. He would have had him be told their backstories. I think it's very important to Luffy's character that he does not know anyone's past except for people who he actually cares to know their past, like Usopp or later on Brook.
Yeah.
Like characters who it's like he would not be. He probably like those characters that he's more like even closer to friends with than like even the rest of the crew.
Mm-hmm.
Like it is important that he doesn't know people's past because Luffy does not care about your past.
That one.
He cares about who you want to be and who you are now.
Yeah, that one is a more like that didn't bother me when I was watching the live action. But
It works in the live action fine.
Yeah.
Because they've already like even though Inaki is Luffy, like there's subtle changes.
Yeah.
There's subtle tweaks they make to Luffy's character to make it make sense in live action.
Yeah,
like he's a bit more like he's a bit kind of more gung ho.
Yeah.
He's a bit like maybe a bit less emotionally intelligent, but a bit more actually intelligent.
Yeah. I feel I think it would. Yeah.
Same with like Zoro, like
yeah.
and it's not like earth-changing character break. It's like it's just small little tweaks, and honestly, they're probably just more acting quirks. Like, oh, this is how Inaki shows.
Usopp has so much more swagger.
Yeah.
Just because Jacob has that swagger.
Yeah,
in any interview footage, that's just how he is.
Usopp's the one that's probably changed the most, and that's just because like in the manga, it's so obvious that he has no drip.
Yeah.
And then in the live action, because Jacob has drip, because his actor Jacob has drip, Usopp kind of ends up having associative drip.
I think I would go so far as to say that drip and that swagger is kind of essential in live action to getting you to actually care about Usopp because they don't do as good a job developing it as they do.
Because they also cut like the important part of his fight with Shushu.
Yeah,
which Arlong Park.
Apparently, I saw a clip recently. It was Matt Owens, the showrunner, on a stream with somebody. He was saying he was not there for the editing of those last episodes.
That makes sense.
Because of the writer's strike, and he sort of implied that he would have kept that in. That they filmed that and it was cut.
The showrunners, Steve Maeda and Matt Owens, are definitely big One Piece fans, and you can tell. And I think that's a great comparison point to like. I haven't watched it, but like everything I've seen and heard people talk about with the live-action Avatar. Live-action One Piece has some earnest mistakes by people who earnestly love the source material and want to see it succeed in a live-action medium. Mm-hmm. Avatar, the live-action, feels like it's made by people who view animation as a crutch holding stories told in animation back and want to improve the source material.
I have a very simple way of putting this. Avatar seems like it's made by people who want to make Avatar cool. One Piece is made by people who already think One Piece is cool.
Yes, absolutely.
And don't try to like...
And are there some cool changes or like cool things in the live action Avatar that I have seen on Twitter? Yeah, I think most of the cast is pretty well casted. Mm-hmm. I think they do some cool things like by showing us Zuko and Uz's childhood before we get into before either of them are like properly introduced.
Mm-hmm. All right,
but I can't comment too much on live action.
I haven't seen it either.
I haven't seen it because I had no faith in it.
I haven't even seen everything Avatar.
And everything about it has made me feel like seemingly everything that I've seen online has kind of shown that I was right to not have faith.
But One Piece, we were right to have faith in that one. Jeff Ward as Buggy. Ooh. Emily brought as Nami. Everyone. Someone cooked
here.
I'm gonna go through, I'm gonna jump through arcs that haven't been adapted into live action yet.
I know they're not. I desperately want Loguetown to just be a movie.
Loguetown
or like a TV special.
I've actually thought about this, how live action could do Loguetown without like. So obviously Loguetown's probably going to be just episode 1 of the next season.
Right. Right.
But I've had some thoughts about how they could actually make it like. I think you could show some of Vivi doing her stuff with the Baroque works, and actually just like a few minutes of something that, like, establishing her as a character in the first episode. Arcs beyond Loguetown. Laboon whale, cool. Barely even counts as an arc, but it'll be important for later.
Yeah, it's a surprise tool that'll help.
Whiskey Peak and Little Garden, both. I feel like live action's gonna like.
They're gonna put them together.
Combine them together into one setting somehow. Because they're both like they both have key moments. But the transitioning between them is kind of, you know, it's like, they're both these little mini arcs. Little Gardens, interesting. Drum Island, Chibaku wa Doctor, Tony Chopper.
They're gonna like, I can totally see them like, when the season drops, they're gonna start shipping out marketable plushie choppers.
Oh yeah, Netflix is ready to hit the chop. They got the chopper merch button ready for when. I predict we will.
I guess the real question is: do you think we're already going to get marketable plushie chopper, or do you think we're going to get fugly chopper, and then he's going to quickly turn into marketable plushie chopper?
I don't know. That's a great question. I love the like joke drawing Oda did of like live action.
It's like Danny DeVito. It's like Danny DeVito wearing a reindeer hat.
Oh my god. I really like Drum Island. I don't have that much to say about it. It's been a while since I've watched it.
It's a good straw hat introduction.
Yeah. And then Alabasta. Well, this is Alabasta Saga as a whole is still maybe it's like Alabasta Saga or Summit War Saga are like my number 2.
Those are often like lots of people.
Alabasta just like really
it's so well built up because every arc you're meeting someone, you're either meeting an ally or meeting someone in Baroque Works.
Yeah.
And like it's everything's built crescendoing to them getting to Alabasta and just how quickly the situation devolves.
Like if this is how good live action made the East Blue, they've really got an all-time great waiting for them if they just do Alabasta correctly. Because there's so much I love about that arc. I love Vivi. She's such a great female character. She reminds me a lot of like Nausicaa and other kinds of characters like that, where it's like the strong like female leader that leads with kindness rather than like force or
but not like passivity. She is incredibly active
kindness,
active and very like and super aggressive in her want for peace.
Yeah. And I feel like I know they're gonna in terms of live action season 2. The most important casting for the Alabasta Saga is Vivi. There's other characters that like Chopper or Robin that will be more important later.
Right.
But for that season, like Vivi is such a great character.
In the same way that like obviously it's different with Hisalu because the most important character in that is Nami, but also Nami is an important character in the future.
Yeah.
So you want to get one who can do both.
Yes. Vivi is this character. Oh my gosh. And that's what I love. There's so much I love about like the like the political situation in Alabasta is really fleshed out.
It's really interesting. It feels so real world. Where it's like there's like there's the people who immediately don't trust the king.
Yeah.
Because they just generally don't have like an anti-authority streak and use this as partially as an excuse, but also as just like a fuck this, we're gonna revolt. And then there's the king who's like trying his best to keep the peace, but is doing a really bad job at it because everything is being either taken in bad faith or he's not communicating well enough. And then there's the rest of the people who just want the fighting to stop.
Yeah.
And but don't have enough power to like persuade one side or the other.
My main desire for a live action adaptation of that season is
and then there's the shadowy figures in the background manipulating the whole situation.
My main desire for a live action adaptation of Alabasta is less of them wandering through the desert from location to location, which I know the anime added a lot more of.
That
and
anime
it's noticeable.
I mean, that entire like second sequence like that entire sequence basically I think of Ace wandering.
Yeah.
Like he's with them for a little bit.
I don't mind Ace being with them more. I think that's fine with me.
And I'm also fine with him like when he finally does realize Blackbeard isn't here. Like I'd love to stay and help Luffy, but I've got my own stuff to do. I'm not going to get in the way of your adventure. Don't get in the way of mine.
Mm-hmm.
That might be an important line later down the road.
But yeah, less wandering through the desert, more of like the internal strife of the country.
I definitely think we're gonna get like when we get to Alabasta, we're gonna get far less insert shots of them wandering the desert, as we are going to get insert shots of like the rebel army base debating what they need to do, what's the best attack to take.
What's the name of the
Kuzan.
Kuzan. Yeah, is it Kuzan?
Kuza,
something like that. Yeah. More of him.
Him like internally debating, like, because like he knows Cobra's a good king.
Yeah.
And he wants to believe him, but he also just cannot. Like he cannot ignore what his eyes are seeing.
Exactly. But yeah, Alabasta.
And then the counter shot of the royal court being like, what? Why is the king taking this tact? I don't understand.
Right,
It's like the King Cobra has never led us astray before. What makes you think he would lead us astray now? And then the shot of, and then the shot of King Cobra, and then it's turned into the
Bon Clay. Oh my gosh, there's so much to love about the Alabasta arc. The introduction of Robin, the way she's like weaved in throughout.
Bon Clay.
Crocodile's a great villain.
Yeah, every Straw Hat gets a fight.
Yeah.
Oh
my god.
The first arc where that happens.
The Usopp Chopper fight.
It starts so funny and then gets so serious.
Well, that is the ultimate, like, this fight could be cut from the story, but please don't, because Usopp needs this fight. Live action Usopp especially needs this fight.
Oh my god. I could definitely see a scary future where that fight gets cut, and even maybe some of the Usopp and the giant stuff gets cut. And then, like, if you do that, I don't think it's going to happen, but, like, if you do that, you might as well just cut Usopp. You're not getting this really rich story of a character constantly doubting himself and like looking to others for inspiration.
It's when I got to Water 7 that I realized, oh shit, if they don't ramp up the Usopp development, the Luffy Usopp stuff in Water 7 is not going to work right.
Because people are going to be like, wait, Usopp, you were on the crew?
Like, people aren't going to care about both sides of that argument. They're going to be like, fine, Usopp, leave then. And it's like, no, that's not.
No, the point is that Luffy is technically right, but also Usopp is also right. They can't abandon Neri after everything they've done.
Speaking of that fight, we'll get there in a second. Skypeia is okay.
I'm gonna kill you. I'm gonna crucify you and Jack.
I know, I'm not one. I wish I could say, because I love the concept of sky cities and sky place that you visit. Like, that's something that's like a fantasy idea I have in my head all the time. My main problem with Skypeia is they're not visiting a sky city or a sky town. They spend the vast majority of that arc in the giant forest fighting.
You see, I like the giant forest fighting.
I don't like the giant forest fighting. I just don't. That was an arc that really, really dragged for me. It wasn't awful, and there were things I liked about it. I liked the Noland and Kelgara backstory stuff.
That's great.
I just feel like nothing that actually matters. There's very little that matters to the plot of Skypeia that like actually involves the sky world. Like, the most important thing going on is the Verth that was plucked up from the surface world. So it's just, I don't know, the sky just like doesn't, I was not invested, that sky is not a well-built enough setting.
He doesn't know.
And I know that later there's stuff that makes it more important, but like, I don't know enough of that yet. Like, it's where the poneglyphs are introduced. Like, there's stuff to like, I just don't.
That's where the poneglyphs are introduced, the idea of sky people, and that the sky people know about the true, know that the true history of the world has been lost.
I also think some of my issue with the arc is just its placement in the series. Like, and especially they do this is a thing that I hope live action, I feel like live action has an opportunity to do this better. I hate how there's that one episode in Giant, that one chapter, whatever, where they introduce a ton of lore for the world. Blackbeard's crew is introduced, the Doflamingo is introduced, a lot of the Warlord stuff. You know, I think the Gorosei show up for the first time in that. They introduce so much stuff there, and then they fuck off to the sky, and none of that stuff matters for like 50 episodes.
I definitely think in the live action, like when they do, if they get this, well, they're gonna get to Skypeia because they're getting at least 2 seasons.
Right. The question is, I hope that Skypeia isn't where things stop, because I hope that they're able to adapt Skypeia in a way where it doesn't drag and doesn't make people lose interest and the series gets canceled.
Or you could just not be a weak little bitch.
I mean, the problem isn't me though. The problem is the larger viewer base needs to be kept engrossed in Skypeia, and I feel like the easiest way to do that is to just throw in more, like.
I do think that, like, I do think when we get to, like, that in the live action, they're definitely going to, like, obviously, the Straw Hats, like, in Straw Hats in the Sky, that's the A
plot.
That's the A plot. But we're gonna get a constant B plot of what's going on on the surface world underneath while this is all happening. And that's where we're gonna get Ace chasing down Whitebeard. That's when we're gonna get Blackbeard. And that's where we're gonna probably even get, like, they might even move up the
Ace Blackbeard fight.
Well, I was gonna say they might even move up, like, the encounter between Whitebeard and Shanks.
Oh yeah. No, that would probably
because that would give them an excuse to cast Whitebeard.
Like just a lot of that stuff that
we'll probably get some Gorosei machinations.
Even in the like. So in the anime, they have one scene of that establishes Ace is on Buggy's ship for a while, and then I know there's a cover story about it in the manga, but the anime, just next time you see him, he's like fighting Blackbeard.
That's the one thing is that like so up until a point, and that is the point, they adapt the cover stories into the anime, and then they stopped. So you don't know what Ace was doing after he was on Buggy's ship. That led him to fight Blackbeard. And the funny thing is, he shows up to a marine base, and then as one of the most wanted men in the Grand Line, and then just puts on a marine disguise. No one actually believes it, but they're too afraid to arrest him.
Oh my god.
So he just kind of wanders around the base
like, that's
looking for information
all of that stuff is almost certain to be season 3 live action.
They're gonna totally show they're gonna,
it's also a way to include more Buggy, since Buggy is popular.
It's a way to include more Buggy. It's also a way to include more Ace after you cast him.
I wouldn't even be
surprised. It's going to be a way to include like a bunch of other side characters.
I wouldn't even be surprised if they somehow find a way to tie Buggy's arrest and placement in Impel Down into him helping Ace somehow.
Maybe.
Just invent something like that to connect the strings a little bit.
They might.
That's something I
could honestly see a version where they change it a little bit, where like Ace just rides around with Buggy for a little bit.
Right, just to give Buggy more.
Yeah. And then like Ace, maybe Buggy drops Ace off on an island and is like, let's get out of here. Gets arrested and then reads in Impel Down. Ace has also been arrested.
Right, so if
and he's like, well, I can't not help him, I guess.
Right, like connect them a little more. I'm if they're gonna do Skypeia as a whole season, which I think they will, because
absolutely.
I think Skypeia, Water 7,
Skypeia is one of those
too much to throw in.
Well, because also Skypeia is one of those season stories that is meant to be self-contained.
Yeah.
You can easily you'll have to change some stuff, but you could easily fit that into a single season of television.
Yeah. But I feel like I'm excited for if they're gonna, assuming they do that as a whole season, I'm excited to see what kind of stuff they add to it to keep it a little less disconnected than it feels in the anime.
That's fair. I joke with you and Jack. I do, as a resident Skypeia enjoyer, I do get a lot when people say they don't like that arc, because it does. If that's not what you're into, if you're not into that sudden change in location and like the Sky Island stuff, and also all the political machinations going on the Sky Island and the way that it plays out.
A lot of the political machinations just felt like stuff they were already doing, and they were doing a different version of Alabasta.
It's a lot more.
I know it's very different.
It's more about faith versus fact.
Yeah. But then after Skypeia,
you get Enies Lobby.
Well, first there's Foxy Time, but I don't even need to talk about Foxy Time. But Afro Luffy funny. Like,
Afro
alright,
Luffy
move on.
funny.
There's also the GR8 anime arc, which
I hope they have a reference to that.
yeah,
at least.
that's such a that arc proves that the anime writers at least understand the comedy aspect. They understand the characters they're writing.
That's honestly a better connecting arc between Skypeia and Enies Lobby than the Davy back fight. Because you know what happens in that filler arc? They introduce the idea that the ship is damaged and might not last long.
They did a really good job seeding that in the anime.
Also, it would make way more sense for after the Straw Hats to land in a marine base and escape. A marine admiral shows up, asks what happened, and then they're like, by the way, you might be interested to know this lady was on the crew too. And then they hold up a poster.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't even think about that.
Because they don't know that Nico Robin is on the crew yet.
Yeah.
And that would be a great way to be like, when I found out, for them to then, you could, obviously they're still gonna do, they might actually cut David Banner. I'm not sure if they might.
From live action?
Maybe.
I could see it being a opening of, a like season opener, like throwaway scene of Afro Luffy fighting Foxy at the beginning of a season.
Like a shot of like all the Straw Hats dressed up like Foxy pirates. Looking so fucking done with this.
Yeah, just like a joke, a bit scene at the beginning of... That's the question though, is do you stick that stuff into Water 7 season or a Skypeia season?
It's gonna be
it would deflate the ending of the Skypeia.
It's gonna be the start of Water 7.
That's how I feel too, because I feel like the Aokiji Robin, like...
Well, that's what it's meant to do, is it introduces the Aokiji Robin conflict, which then carries us into Water 7.
Aokiji is one of my favorite Admiral characters.
He's so good. And I really think are going to be interested in his development that gets shortly introduced at the end of Impel Down. Not Impel Down,
Punk
Hazard, because we find out what he's doing, and it's very interesting.
Yeah, well, just the Punk Hazard idea that the island was formed by Aokiji in a Kainu's fight is super cool. But anyway, Water 7 Enies Lobby, which is my favorite arc still.
So good.
There's just so much, especially especially that first half of Water 7.
Honestly, Water 7, like as much as some of the fights are really good, that first half is honestly better.
That first half is my favorite, like
the conflict between building conflict
there's
between
just
Usopp and the rest of the crew.
going on in that. Like, there's just so much that happens in Water 7 specifically. There's
I think we were talking about like the Frankie.
Yeah, we're talking about Robin going rogue.
Frankie showing up and rocking everyone's shit.
Yeah, and then the Luffy and Usopp thing, which has got to be the ultimate. Like, I don't know if you've ever seen like authors and writers talk about like their character, like they're writing a story and their character just did this, and they like that. Luffy and Usopp feels like the ultimate example of that because...
Well, it's such a natural response for Luffy, but it's also such a natural response for Usopp.
It's so natural that I'm like, this doesn't feel
forced. Because Luffy fought Zoro back on Whiskey Peak, but that did kind of
that was kind of a forced, like...
It made sense for Luffy to be stupid enough... it actually didn't even make sense for Luffy to be stupid enough to be like, Zoro obviously betrayed, like, the people who fed us and is just going rogue and killing them. Like, even Luffy's not that stupid.
Right.
That was clearly a moment of editorial was like, Can you make Luffy and Zoro
like that
fight each other?
Gag, basically.
It is, like they don't play it for shit.
The Luffy Usopp fight is anything but a gag, and it doesn't. It's one of the least like forced or even like pre-planned.
Well, because the scenes. I really like that scene because it starts like Luffy just being like, so this is what we're doing.
It starts as just a normal discussion.
Yeah, and it's like Luffy's like, so this is what we're doing, and he doesn't like assume. He doesn't think anything bad is. He's like, so this is what we're gonna do. This is what I decided. I hope you're looking forward to it. And then like I think Usopp like throws the first punch. Like he's like, what the hell are you doing? No.
Yeah.
We can't abandon Mary. And Luffy's like, but we Mary can't.
from what I remember, it was like Luffy either said or did something. I remember Sanji kicking
Well,
Luffy.
yeah, Sanji kicked Luffy to try to de-escalate.
Yeah.
But then, like,
And
it just further escalated.
Yeah.
Because Luffy was Luffy would never have said it, but, like, Luffy, it seemed like it was implied that Luffy was about to be like, you can't do this on your own or whatever.
Yeah. So,
Basically heavily playing into a very big anxiety Usopp had about feeling like he was holding the crew back and was going to get left behind.
Such a like natural.
So like it was clear that like, so for him it was he's not just fighting for Mary, he's fighting for himself.
Yeah. Such a natural.
Whereas
like,
Luffy has to put his foot down because he is the captain, and and as much as he might also care about what happens to the Mary, he needs to look after his crew and make sure they have a ship that they can take to the to further into the Grand Line.
Oh, that's such a good and that's what I was gonna say. Water 7 is already like packed with so much story stuff, even without that fight.
Yeah.
Which makes me. That's why I feel like it's such a the characters made this stuff because I don't think Oda went into writing that scene with the thought that it was going to end with Usopp breaking off. That feels like something that happened.
Yeah,
in the process.
He was probably like, and that here's how every character is going to react to the news about Luffy. Luffy saying we're reading the Mary.
Yeah,
it's like
and then
Nami's gonna be Nami and Chopper are sad. Zoro's like whatever you say. Sanji's maybe like I can't believe it came to this, and then Usopp throws the first, and then Usopp is like, how could you? I'm leaving the crew, and
then he
he's like,
realizes he's like, wait a minute,
and he's like,
wait a minute.
No, but he would do that.
But he would do that. Yeah, so natural. Oh my god.
And then Luffy would be like, you don't have a choice in this.
I normally
and he's like, oh no, I'm cooking.
And I truly I dislike
that
the like characters have a like
characters fighting in
the friend group.
But it's so well because it's
so well done.
Especially because it's like it's only Luffy and Usopp.
Yeah.
It's not like it's like, and it's not even like one side is right and one side is wrong, or even like both sides are right and both sides. It's like it's so like. It's so obvious what each side wants, and that even that each side can acknowledge the other people's feelings, but they can't in this moment.
Yeah,
and that's the problem.
It's like a specific heated moment, and it felt
if either of them had stopped and taken 5 minutes, the fight wouldn't have happened.
Yeah. And that's what made
But they didn't stop and take 5 minutes. They kept going.
That's what made it feel so real for me. Is I was just like, wow, this is what it looks like when you have a fight with a friend and it's something that's completely avoidable.
Yeah.
But just happens and it's like it really affected me watching it. I was like, oh my gosh.
And then you get to Enies Lobby. And Enies Lobby is I'm a bit of a hater on Enies Lobby.
It does
for the record you have
fight time.
Well yeah, for the record you have to understand. Like, I love Skypeia, but like, for so long in the One Piece community, everyone was just like, Water 7 peak, Water 7 greatest of all time, and I haven't been to Water 7 yet. So I was feeling insulted as a fan of Skypeia. So I was like, I was going into Water 7 hating it on principle, on the idea that it was worth. So I got to Water 7, and I'm like, okay, actually, I kind of see it. And then I got to Enies Lobby, and I'm like, nope, because all of the fights are great. The problem is, it's just fighting. It is just fighting. And I would argue the weakest part of all of One Piece is when it's just fighting. Because Oda's great at a lot of parts around the fighting. He's great about the story leading into the fight. He's great about the story coming out of the fight. He's great about setting up what the fight means to people. He's not necessarily great at writing fighting.
I do think I wouldn't be surprised if live action turned CP9 into like CP7. You know, there's only like cutting out some of the members, or just having them like get beat very, very quickly. Because I do think there's a few too many of them, and a few too many fights there, and also that from what you told me,
as sad as it is, I could totally imagine Chopper's fight gets cut and he instead goes Monster Point for a different reason.
Oh, yeah.
Like maybe he gets overwhelmed by a bunch of goons.
Right,
and he's like,
yeah, like maybe he's fighting multiple CP9 agents and then he goes Monster Point and just instantly beats like a few of them, so then they don't have to.
The fights that are definitely going to happen are the ones that always happen, and it's Sanji's fight, Zoro's fight, and Luffy's fight.
Zoro and Usopp being trapped together
that's so fucking funny. I could honestly, because they were starting to do it in Enies Lobby, and then they changed, and then Oda changes, and then Oda and the writers changed their mind. where it's like they're setting up team fights.
Oh yeah.
And then they break off into individual fights.
Yeah.
I could see in the live action when they do that, they stay team fights.
Right. Yeah.
As a way to both save time and save budget.
I just want to see Kaku Giraffe.
Kaku?
That's such a fucking
love.
That's such a good.
You at first you're like, oh, he's gonna be upset that he eats a giraffe, and he's actually
I love giraffe.
He's so into the fact that his devil fruit is a giraffe.
I don't know if you've seen. So I watched it sub, but there was a clip that was on my TikTok for a little while that was from the dub, and it's him defending his form, and the dub.
It's not stupid. It's not stupid.
Well, no. He said the actor delivers this, and this is probably my favorite delivery in all of the dub that I've heard. The way the actor goes,
I love giraffes.
he says it so intensely.
Yeah. Quick tangent.
So funny.
So, one thing that's interesting about the One Piece dub, Jack will tell you this too. I think all of the supporting cast is well cast. I don't necessarily like the voices for the Straw Hats.
I find Luffy's voice so annoying. That's why
the thing is that like the voice actress for Luffy in the dub, she's like a Pokemon actress veteran, and she's voicing it like Ketchum. But that just doesn't work for Luffy, especially long term. He becomes such a very different character than he was at like even just the start of the show.
I remember when I first tried to watch the show.
Zoro's okay, but that's just because he's Chris Sabat, and Chris Sabat is just basically doing Diet Vegeta.
I remember when I first started watching the show like years ago, and I watched like a little bit of it. I couldn't decide whether to watch sub or dub. I would try the dub. And then Kobe and Luffy's voice acting was so annoying to me that I'd be like, I gotta go back to the sub.
Yeah, Kobe's voice is also really annoying in the dub, which is good, which is bad because he's supposed to be kind of the character up until Usopp's introduced that you relate to the most.
Kobe's gotta be
because he's the normal guy who has a big dream.
Kobe's gotta be like most improved character from anime to live action.
Yeah,
just because they actually like do something.
Well, because they also basically speed run his arc.
Yeah.
Where it's like you're supposed to not get his development until you get to Water 7.
Right. And
where you find out, oh, you've been training with Garp this whole time, and like now you're actually actually making progress towards your goal.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, even though Enies Lobby is so fight heavy, that saga, the combined story of that is still my favorite.
Well, there's obviously the I Want to Live moment, which is iconic.
Yes. Usopp shooting the flag. Yeah. There's also the way Frankie and Robin bond.
I fucking love Frankie.
We are Frobin. We are Frobin agenda pushers. Frobin truthers.
It isn't an agenda when it's just the truth.
Yeah, we are Frobin truthers.
Here's a post clip of every single time Oda himself has clearly shipped Robin together.
I'm not gonna find that.
And it's just the entire anime from Frankie and Robin's introduction.
It's just the whole scene where the scene where
he tells him
twist Frankie's balls is where it really was locked in for me. I'm like,
I want to point out, it's never Frankie, like he reacts like he's in pain, but he never actually says that he's like not enjoying it. And Robin does not look like she is like. Robin knew what she was doing.
Yeah, she knew what she was doing.
She's handled some balls.
Her fucking smirk when she turns to Luffy and is like, I have an idea. I'm like, this is...
Someone's getting their cock torture. Cock and ball torture.
Yeah, I think the only part of that entire arc, that entire saga, where I felt it dragging, and you were telling me that this is mostly an anime problem, the train
is
from Water 7 to Enies Lobby is so stretched out.
The train is so much longer than it is in the manga.
It is. I think it was a full 10 episodes in the anime, which for reference is as long as the entire GR8 filler arc.
This is also a thing where it's like you have to understand that as soon as they get to Enies Lobby, as soon as they leave Water 7 and get to Enies Lobby, I think they underwent a massive production change. So. And in the process of that, they basically the entire not got axed, but they changed entirely how they did their production.
Really? Okay.
Which killed the pacing and also killed the animation.
I mean, within Enies Lobby, there's the stretch of 4 episodes where they go through each of the Straw Hats' backstories via basically a highlight reel flashback clip while they're jumping off the building.
You want to know how long that scene lasts in the manga? It doesn't. It's filler.
It's just them jumping off the thing.
It's entirely filler.
Yeah, the Enies lobby is also pretty badly paced in the anime.
It's relatively still well animated. It's not until New World, I would say, where the animation quality takes a massive nosedive.
We'll get there. But despite the criticisms and I feel like whenever you criticize One Piece pacing, there's always the asterisk of like, oh, but it's worse in the anime.
Oh, there's also a second asterisk there where it's like, every time you criticize One Piece, and every time a One Piece fan criticizes an arc and says it's like the worst ever or whatever, there has to be a massive asterisk, which is to say, by One Piece standards.
Right, that's what I was...
The average One Piece arc is a 7 out of 10.
Yeah.
That's where it starts. Well, I would say the average
is
after East Blue, the average is like an 8 out of 10.
Yeah.
And then it goes up and down. Like, obviously there are some arcs that are not as good, but most arcs are much better. Yeah. And then there's a couple of arcs that drag the curve down.
Yeah. When I say I'm not...
I would only say there are exactly 2 arcs in all of One Piece that are just objectively bad. Syrup Village and Dressrosa.
Dressrosa? Really?
Just because it's so long.
Oh, just because it's long?
If it was half its length, it'd be great.
See, that's what...
But it's 100 chapters and like over 100 episodes.
Right, that's what I'm...
So it's too long.
I'm so conflicted because Dressrosa, I think, is the next one.
It's the next one after Punk.
And I've been excited to see the Doflamingo villain time for like...
Wait for him to like give his like big like opening speech in Dressrosa and then switch to the manga.
Okay.
Honest to God, because the pacing and the animation are terrible.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. Dressrosa is like the worst case scenario of the pacing.
Honestly, I would have said to switch to the manga by the time you start time skip.
Right. Yeah. Fishman Island was already a little packed. But anyway, Water 7, Enies Lobby,
Peak,
and post Enies Lobby is also. When I was saying I'm not that big a Skypeia fan, it's like you said. It's by One Piece standards. It's only in the sense that I consider Alabasta and Water 7 Sagas
so high tier
to be peak, and Skypeia is just good.
It's that thing where it's like when a band has nothing but bangers, their one album where it's like, yeah, this is pretty good. It's like, oh my god, it's the worst ever.
Oda.
It's like, no, it's pretty good.
At least pre-time skip, I feel like my opinions on the sagas kind of alternate between peak and good, because I think Alabasta is peak. I think Skypeia is good. I think Water 7, Enies Lobby, and post Enies Lobby, all that stuff is peak.
It's time to talk about Thriller Bark.
And then Thriller Bark is just good.
The thing about Thriller Bark, it's the most unbalanced One Piece arc of all time. It's got incredible highs, and then it has Absalom, and then it has any scene with Absalom. I don't even want to get into it, like, because there are genuinely some scenes that's uncomfortable to watch.
Yeah, from my main thing is I just hate that they took, I just hate that the invisibility devil fruit power was wasted on such a frustratingly, flanderized character.
And then
it starts out genuinely creepy, and then by the end he's like a weird bad joke, but still creepy. Now you're playing it for laughs, so it's even more uncomfortable.
And also in a creepy in a way where it's like, oh, I just don't want you to exist.
Yeah,
not creepy in a way where it's like, oh, this guy's like, because the arc is going for campy horror movie.
Yeah.
And it gets there. It gets there with everyone else except for him.
Except him. He's so weird. I don't
even his existence is a black spot on One Piece as a whole, so I don't even want to talk about him that much. You'll be happy to know he dies off screen.
Excellent.
In the future.
He joins the list with a Vanderdecken of bad, creepy villains that get killed. Get killed super unceremoniously because they suck and don't matter.
At least Vanderdecken dies on screen. Absalom literally is someone shows up with his devil fruit power and you're like, oh, he's dead.
so that's how badly they wasted that power that they use it on somebody else again.
Yeah. they do state, oh, that must mean because
that must mean Absalom's dead.
Yeah, Gecko Moria shows up and he's like, wait, you have Absalom's power? That must mean, and then he gets cut off.
I also kind of hate Gecko Moria.
In fairness, you're supposed to. He's meant to.
Yeah.
He's literally like the embodiment of laziness.
His laugh is so annoying.
Yeah, his laugh is pretty. His laugh is bad.
Like, I'm on Punk Hazard right now, and Caesar Clown's laugh is pretty bad. But I think Moria's is still my least favorite, because when Moria comes back in Marineford, every time they would cut to him, I'd be like, why are you here? You already got beat by Luffy. Go away.
You are washed.
And then at the end of that arc, Doflamingo like tries to kill Moria, and I'm like, yes, he killed Moria. Thank God, no more Moria.
Absalom takes him away.
Well, and then later there's a scene where is that what happened? I don't even.
Well, because you'll notice in the scene, Doflamingo is attacking him, and then like a beam goes out, and then Gecko Moria disappears.
Yeah.
And so Doflamingo's like, well, job's done, I guess.
I just know there was a scene later where Doflamingo, where Doflamingo's having a conversation with some government person, and it sort of establishes Moria might be still alive, and I'm just like, God damn it, Oda, just kill Moria. I don't care.
You don't have to worry. He doesn't come back except for one scene where it's implied he dies.
Excellent.
For real this time.
Excellent.
For real this time because he's cornered by a bunch of devil fruit hunters.
Let's go.
And these are the same people that killed Absalom, so it's like, they're definitely gonna kill him. They're definitely like if he doesn't join their crew, they're definitely gonna kill him.
God.
Moria is interesting as a villain entirely because of his implied backstory with Kaido,
right?
Which is interesting when Kaido eventually gets introduced.
Thriller Bark's at its best in the early part where Nami, Usopp, and Chopper are Scooby, Shaggy, and like Daphne / Velma running around like that's the best part of Thriller Bark. That and then like the Kuma stuff at the end.
Oh, Kuma's great, yeah. The beginning and end of not Punk Hazard, Thriller Bark are great. Honestly, the middle is pretty good too.
Yeah.
It's just that it's super uneven.
Yeah.
Every time the crew is together and they're getting spooked by something, it's great. As soon as they as soon as they separate, which is usually kind of the fun part of the arc, because that's the
part that's bad, because there's not enough going on Thriller Bark for them to be.
None of the villains on their own pose enough of a threat or interesting enough for any one Straw Hat to have a significant interaction with them, except for Perona,
Perona Usopp is a cool fight.
Except for Perona, who spends most of her section like in her own little tower, separated as basically a goth Lolita Disney princess, separated from everyone.
From all the other mid-ass villains like Hogback.
And you can tell that Oda was like, I need to put her somewhere else. Because he does. Kuma shows up, teleports her away, and then next time we see her, she's hanging out on Mihawk's place.
Yeah, like she's never
She ends up like just completely ditching.
Yeah. The best thing about Thriller Bark to me is that it doesn't overstay its welcome. If it was as long as, say, Skypeia, I'd be like, oh my god, this is the worst arc yet.
It's also really good in it's really good in the manga because like they don't do it as well in the anime, but there's a huge art style shift where there's much heavier. They use much heavier blacks.
Okay. The anime starts using purple.
To indicate that it's like, ooh, this is the spooky arc.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense because the anime pretty much does the same thing by just using the color purple,
which is
not as effective.
No.
It's still visually cool. Like, it does still have its own visual identity.
So, they're doing a One Piece remake, right?
Yeah.
I won't comment much on this because we don't know much on this. Mm-hmm. But what I really hope is that, like, for each saga, which is what the larger One Piece arcs are called, each saga kind of has its own art style. Mm. So you'll have the early East Blue art style, and then you could have the Alabasta style, then the Skypeia saga style. But what really matters is that then when you get to Thriller Bark, you could have it be like straight up like Dr. Frankenstein, almost black and white Monster Mash style, you know? Like big, heavy blacks and whites, almost like maybe even take some of the color away, like make it super washed out. I think that would be interesting.
Yeah.
They would never do that in the actual anime because they have to meet a weekly deadline.
Yeah. But then you go after Thriller Bark, after that sort of...
And then you're back into peak.
You get Sabaody and we're back to peak.
Well, because Sabaody's the start of the Paramount War Saga.
Which is all...
Which is Sabaody, spoilers for people on Sabaody, the Straw Hats breaking up because they get attacked by Kuma and he sent them all over the world. And then Luffy finds out Ace is in trouble and then has to go to Marineford, Impel down, and then Marineford to rescue him. So there's like 4 or 5 different arcs in this one big arc.
This whole saga was extra exciting for me because I really didn't know very much going in. Like at the beginning of that saga, they say, "Oh, we're going to Fishman Island." And I remember in the Discord, I was like, "Oh, I'm going to Fishman Island." You guys were like, "Did you skip like 5 arcs?" And I'm like, "Oh, never mind. They're going to." So the reason I thought that was Netflix had the season as Sabaody.
Right.
But I thought maybe that was just Netflix giving Fishman Island arc a weird name.
Right.
So I didn't know Sabaody was unreal.
This is the arc where they go to prepare to go to Fishman Island.
But then they get sidetracked, and it's the thing that I love about Sabaody is that it essentially follows the normal One Piece arc structure of they separate, they group up, they fight, but it gets cut off.
Yes.
Mid-fight.
Because they realize they're not built for
this. It gets cut off when they get like power scaled hard and
Kizaru, one of the other admirals shows up and wrecks Straw Hat shops to the point where Kuma has to show up and save them by separating them all over the world.
So essentially what you get in Sabaody is you get an arc that is mostly just that first part of every arc where the Straw Hats are exploring a town and meeting interesting characters and learning about world lore.
Yeah.
AKA the best parts.
Yeah. And then as soon as you're like, oh, and here's where the boring fights, here's where the boring but kind of fun fight starts, they never start because the Straw Hats get wiped out.
Yeah. So that arc, I'd say, so my ranking of sagas is like Water 7, Enies Lobby best. If I was to rank arcs... Individual arcs, it's probably Water 7, Sabaody might be 7.
I really like Sabaody. I also really, maybe I'm the outlier here, I really like the next arc that Luffy...
Amazon Lily?
Yeah, Amazon Lily.
Amazon Lily's a good one. It's like short, it's short enough that I tend to not quite look at it individually.
It's not really meant to be looked at individually. It's clearly intended to be like, here's where Luffy went, now here's where everyone else went.
But it's really good.
It's really good.
Hancock's a really strong character.
I really,
I was worried because the only thing I really knew about her beforehand was about her crush on Luffy, so I was worried she was going to be kind of this like...
Like you were worried she was going to be Bulma?
Yeah.
No, not Bulma. Chi-Chi, where it's like... Her only defining personality trait is...
Right, I was worried she was kind of going to be like, maybe a cool character at first, and then she has this crush on Luffy and loses all other aspects of her personality.
No, the great thing about Boa Hancock is that her crush on Luffy is literally her only redeeming quality.
Yeah, it's like a weird, it's a fun comedic contrast to everything else about her.
Because she literally goes around kicking puppies and seals.
Yes, but it's also like really greatly correlated to her backstory.
Oh yeah.
And I've seen some people say like the crush is weird because of the age difference, and like the reason I don't find that to be a problem is that her crush is so childlike. There's nothing like sexual about it.
No.
Really.
And the crush can never be sexual and can never develop beyond just a crush. Because the moment Luffy ever starts reciprocating feelings...
She's would probably be less interested.
Yeah, because the whole point is that Luffy doesn't care.
Yeah, the whole point is that...
He's the one man in the world who does not view her as a sex object.
It's not just like not a sexual crush, it's like an actively anti-sexual plotline.
There's an entire running gag in like the side content where like she'll like see people kissing and then she'll be like, are Luffy and me married?
Yeah, her she goes back to like it's child's first crush because her traumatic experiences essentially like shaped her understanding of
the world
and
like
of romance specifically to be like that of like a child.
Yeah.
Which I think is really interesting that it's like she understands the sexual world and how to like use other people's sexual desire for her against them.
But like actual genuine love or
romance and love, she has like a child's understanding of.
Yeah.
It's a really interesting, like, complex dynamic, actually.
Yeah. It's also very understated. Like
yeah, it's not.
Which is good because like what's implied to happen in her backstory is not safe for work.
Right. I was gonna say it's understated the right amount that it's not like uncomfortable to watch or like understand.
Oda is a little bit less subtle with another character's backstory that's very similar, like much later on. But thankfully, it's that character basically is just fridged, which is to say, like basically he wastes that character. So it's not. It's terrible in the moment, but then it doesn't have long-lasting impact.
And then you have Impel Down and Marineford, which are like
they're basically meant to be watched together.
Yeah, those as far as arcs that are like
I'm almost certain that Matt Owens and Steve Maeda got hired because of Impel Down because they did Prison Break.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
so
that actually does make sense.
I could see them having a lot when it comes to adapting Impel Down. I could see them having a lot.
How
of
do you
fun
think
with that.
the structure? Because I've always thought that if they get to this point in live action, I think Thriller Bark and Sabaody will be one season.
Maybe, probably. Actually, that would be really impactful.
Because I think that would be really
impactful.
Kuma seperaring the crew
That'd be
such a no-brainer season ender.
Yeah. Is that like end of the Well, in the hypothetical world where One Piece live action gets more than 3 seasons.
Right. Yeah. This is all if they get there. I think the obvious because not only would that be a good cliffhanger spot, but Thriller Bark really isn't long enough to be.
Even if they stretch it out.
Yeah.
It's not long enough.
So whereas I think Sabaody, Amazon Lily, Impel Down, Marineford, that's a lot for one season.
Especially when you're trying to build up the big war.
Yeah. So I think
spoilers, Luffy finds out they moved Ace out of Impel Down to Marineford, so he goes to Marineford, aka the Naval Base of Operations, and finds out that there's a massive war going on between all of the Ace's crew, the Whitebeard pirates, and all of the Marines to save Ace. Because Ace turns out to be Gold Roger's son, and the Marines cannot allow Gold Roger's son to live.
We were talking about the flaw of One Piece arcs that are almost entirely just fighting. Impel Down Marineford has got to be the ultimate example, like the best possible version of arcs that are mostly just fighting. Impel Down has other stuff. Marineford is truly just the fighting.
It turns what it would. Impel Down is like it's a Prison Break arc, except every time that like you would have like a clever interaction, it's just a fight instead.
Right.
So it's like a bunch of sneaking around, a bunch of like trying to avoid the guards, and then
a bunch of buggy. Oh, ponytail buggy.
Ponytail buggy. There's gonna be
a reason to hope live action gets there because oh my god,
there's gonna be so many fan cams of prison outfit, ponytail buggy, Jeff Ward.
Yeah, but that whole saga.
What a brilliant way to cap off the first part of
what a great way to, because Marineford is this all fight arc. What a great way to putting Ace in danger.
Well, because it's an all fight. It's an all fight arc for everyone except Luffy, whose only goal is getting to Ace.
Yeah, it's such a great way to take everything that's built up pre-time skip, push it into one big conflict, and then such a simple way to give that massive conflict between
actual
powers personal stakes, so you actually care.
That's what's so great about One Piece.
It's like Luffy's journey just intersects with the other big stuff going on.
That's so great. What's so great about One Piece? Every arc has massive world-changing implications that you would not know about upon first reading, because all you and all the Straw Hats care about is how this arc. Is how the events of that arc are going to affect them and their friends.
Yeah.
In East Blue, if Arlong gets those maps, he could probably conquer the world.
Yeah.
Do you care about that? No. You care because Arlong made Nami cry.
Yeah. Fuck Arlong. Speaking of Fishman, Fishman Island.
That's another one of those arcs where it's like super unbalanced.
Yes.
There's so many great moments to that, but then the actual It's so interesting. The problems with Fishman Island are just like the fundamental structure of the arc.
Yeah, it's the problem is that the backstory is more interesting than what's happening in the present.
The backstory, and then like Jinbei trying to tell Luffy why they need to handle the backstory a certain way. Or like half handle the coming out of the backstory being like, and here's why you can't just go in there and punch the bad guy.
Yeah.
Like those are the two most interesting parts. And then the rest of the arc exists.
Yes, Horty is a B-tier villain.
He's supposed to be, in fairness, he's kind of supposed to be.
Yeah.
He's supposed to be a stopgap villain to show how much the Straw Hats have progressed.
But then there's also, like, Vanderdecken is the most fun. Like, he's so... I love that Vanderdecken doesn't get killed by any of the heroes. He gets killed by Horty. He gets killed by the other bad guy.
Actually, he doesn't even get killed by Horty. He gets killed by a cannonball falling on his head after Horty stabs him.
Yeah, Vanderdecken's so lame.
He's so fucking
and
weird.
his power is it's like a part 3 stand power.
Kind of. I think it's just very poorly explained. It's essentially the idea of I touch you, anything I throw automatically targets
No,
you.
I get it. It makes sense. It just doesn't feel like a devil fruit power compared to the other devil
You're gonna
fruit power.
find that post time skip, that's what a lot of powers
I know,
start to feel
because I'm
like.
watching Law do whatever the fuck he wants with his power right now. Law's power is awesome. Don't get me wrong.
Law's
it
powers
just
are
doesn't
awesome.
make sense.
Law's powers are awesome. I just think it's so funny anytime a Law fan will stand there and tell me to their face why Law's powers are not the most single broken thing in the entire fiction of One Piece. Like I'm sitting here like, oh yeah, tell me again how your character's powers of teleportation, body removal, soul swapping, being able to attack someone from within, bypassing any form of external physical defense they have. It's not the single most
telling that in
power.
Punk Hazard they had to give one of the bad guys Law's heart. Law had to like give the bad guys his heart so that
He couldn't just solve every problem.
Which even then I was thinking, so they get trapped in the cage and then they break out of the cage because Law wasn't actually in Sea Prism Stone Chains. My thought is, if he wasn't in Sea Prism Stone Chains, what was stopping him when he was in the room with all the bad guys from just using room and taking his heart back right then? Like, that's what his power is so crazy that it's like, in theory, what's stopping him from doing anything? yeah. I like Punk Hazard so far. It's like
Punk Hazard. Yeah.
It's a solid. It has the same strength as Throw a Bark, where it doesn't feel as padded out as some of the bigger arcs.
I hate to break it to you. You're about to hit the padding.
The padding. Well, I am about to hit the back end part of an arc where they all fight a bunch of mini bosses.
It's not that bad in the manga, but I remember watching in the anime, it was long.
Let me see how many episodes of Punk Hazard do I have left.
It's like, I remember it's like a good 30, I think. Like the whole arc is like 30 or something. And so like, you probably have a good like 10, 15.
Yeah, I think that's accurate. Hold on.
I hate how it's organized when you get to the new world. Because you've got,
Okay, the arc ends at episode 629, and I'm on 606. So yeah, I've got about 20 episodes left. Somehow. But that's kind of the anime experience of One Piece in general, is getting to what seems like the third act of an arc, and then looking at the episode count and going, how are there like 30 episodes left? Like, even Alabasta, I was doing that.
Yeah. But the difference is that with Alabasta, it's a giant war.
Yeah, with Punk Hazard, Punk Hazard feels kind of small scale, but in a good way. It doesn't feel like Fishman, where I feel like, with Fishman Island, my thought throughout was, man, the only thing stopping the crew from just kicking these guys' asses already
is that it'd be very racist.
Is the drugs.
It's the drugs, and also it'd be kind of racist.
The drugs, and then Vanderdecken's like Deus Ex Machina power, kind of.
Well, because Luffy was kicking Gordy's ass, and then a boat appeared.
Yeah, the boat is just
the boat appeared above the island.
Now we have a new problem.
Well, this is much more dangerous than any of the fishmen.
Exactly.
Fishmen pirates. So I need to take care of it. So 6:55 is when Punk Hazard starts.
I see.
Ends 700-ish.
700.
Ish.
Ish.
Like there's a couple of episodes before that. It technically ends a couple of chapters before that, but like there's that middle period in between an arc.
Yeah.
That happens.
So that's all that's all the arcs. I'd say my favorite saga is Water 7, Enies Lobby. My second favorite sagas, it's like either the Alabasta saga or the Summit War saga. Like those two are kind of tied for peak.
Sounds to me like you're a big fan of war. Holy War! Lisan al-Gaib!
How many times have you seen Dune 2? Just once?
Just once.
I watched it the second time with my family.
I envy that person who has seen Dune 2 75 times in theaters or whatever.
Because it's peak every time.
It should have been me! Not him! Me!
So I rewatched Dune Part 1 with my family. And it was funny because they all liked that movie the first time. The second time they were like, man, this is slow. And I also kind of felt it the second time watching Part 1. Part 1's a lot slower on rewatch. Part 2 does not have that problem.
Oh my god.
I think the main thing that makes Dune Part 1 feel slow on rewatch is it ends at a weird spot.
Well, because it ends halfway through the book.
Yeah, but it's like...
And it ends at a part in the book where it's really not a conclusion.
Yeah.
And so this is ... and the story continues.
Right. So the consequence of that is that Dune Part 1's most compelling section is like the middle of the movie. When the house gets bombed, the scene where him and his mom are in the tent and he has all the visions and she's like trying to console him and he's like, silence! That's the best scene.
Yeah.
And then there's another hour after that feels mostly like setup for what's going to happen in the second movie.
And it kind of is.
And it is, pretty much. Like, there was a lot rewatching the first one. Rewatching the first one, I did not remember. There's a scene in the first one where Paul Atreides literally, he outlines the whole potential plan of marrying the Emperor's daughter. He has that idea all the way back in Part 1, and then just doesn't bring it up again until, like, after drinking the water of life. So there's a lot of stuff like that in Part 1 that is more interesting when you've seen Part 2.
Yeah, the setup and then the payoff.
Yeah, but Part 2 is so... Well,
Where do I even begin? Like,
Part 2 was even better on rewatch.
It's so
because
good.
The first... Okay, when we were watching Part 2, my only, like, low point that I would have said was I think it starts a little slow. But then rewatching it, I'm like, no, it doesn't even start that slow. Like, Part 1 starts a lot slower. I
can't even review it. It's just so fucking...
It's just...
I
have some review thoughts. So, essentially, I love this is a structural element that I think makes Part 2 feel really well paced. You spend the first hour, I don't know the exact times, but you spend a first act, roughly, with Paul in the desert learning to be the freeman. Then, I love how they did this. It cuts to Austin Butler, Fade Routha, Chad Routha.
Rotha Flow.
Rotha Flow. And
this spice ain't nothing to me, man.
And for like 30, 45 minutes, it's his movie.
And then they intersect, and you're like, it was supposed to be their story all along.
Well, that's what.
And then Lady Jessica said, "What if I had a boy?"
Both times watching the movie, I find myself during the Fade Routha section, like hyped up for Fade Routha, even though I know he's this like genocidal maniac.
Also, his introduction is him literally like killing a woman
just to test the sharpness of his blade,
and then implying to like go have the guy go kill the guy who made it because it wasn't sharp enough.
Yeah, like he's a monster. But Austin Butler plays him so damn well that
I would like to apologize to Austin Butler for my comments to him during the Elvis era.
Truly.
Turns out he actually can act. When Baz Luhrmann isn't shouting in his ear, "Be more Southern!"
Well, he truly took. I feel like he took the swagger from Elvis and injected it into this monstrous character, just enough that you can
you believe him. You believe him when he's
that structural element I'm talking about, where you essentially spend 45 minutes roughly watching the rise of Maud Deep. You then watch the parallel rise of Fade and Ralph. They really like structuring it that way instead of intersecting the two. Really, emphasizes the parallels. They're both like these risen messiah figures in their own societies, and the Bene Gesserit are like pushing them both into the forefront. They push them both into that spot.
They push them to conflict.
Yeah.
And it's so great, the kind of tragic irony. Had everything gone to their plan, those two would have never risen as highly, but they would have risen together.
Yeah, but instead they fight.
Because Paul was supposed to be a girl,
and then they marry. Yeah.
And then Lady Jessica decided, like,
I want the Lisan al-Gaib.
She thought, she was the mother of the Lisan al-Gaib, so she made Paul a boy.
All the stuff that's seeded in part 1 is so followed up on so well in part 2.
Like, and that when they eventually fight at the very end of Dune, like Dune Part 2, it adds like a whole extra layer to their encounter because like it's shot so intimately.
Yeah.
The fight between Fade and Paul.
As we said before, like there's so much intimacy just because of how like their stories parallel each other.
Yeah.
And like they were going to end up had the Bene Gesserit's plans gone according to plan, they wouldn't have been fighting against each other. They would have been probably fighting together against the Fremen.
Yes.
And it's like, fuck.
Yeah. Even the may thy knife chip and shatter exchange. Not only is the way he delivers that funny, but it also like there's so many layers
like
you can interpret.
You could read it as him being like, fuck, that was really cool. That was really I need to impress him. Him. I need to impress them. May thy knife chip and shatter. Shit. Fuck. Damn it. Does them think I'm lame.
But yeah, that's definitely. But you could also interpret it as I've seen it interpreted as a mocking response, a flirting response.
Yeah.
It has such intention behind it, no matter what.
Yeah, there's room for interpretation, but also it's so well acted. Like I said before, I apologize, Justin Butler. I did not know you had it in on it.
He knows how to cook. I also think it's funny that he has the Stellan Skarsgård accent, and I legit think the main reason he has that accent is to get the Elvis voice out of him and replace it with something else.
Yeah. Well, now because now in the press circuits, like he's talking relatively normal now.
Yeah. He's normal out a little bit. I still do. I see the clips of him. I don't know if you've seen the clip where it's like, "Hey, I'm Timothy Chalamet, and I'm Zendaya, and Austin,
and I'm Austin Butler,
and Austin." Follow Dune on TikTok.
Well, if it isn't poetry.
The only time I noticed the voice in that performance, though, is his first line. He says "Dobbins," and it's very. It's like his first line. In the movie, and then it like
that's him. Like he kills that lady. That's him killing the Elvis voice.
But he's not the only good one in the movie.
He's not even the best performance, probably. Like,
yeah,
it's his best performance I've ever seen of him. But like Rebecca Ferguson playing Lady Jessica, there's so much subtlety to her because like there's so much subtle nuances to the Lady Jessica character of like capturing this sense of like fervent. It's like having to play Lady Macbeth. Mm-hmm. There's so much like fervent radicalism while at the same time capturing like that she's going insane and like losing her grasp on both reality and control of the situation. It's like there's so many layers.
I had an interesting experience rewatching the first one and then watching the beginning of the second one that made me click and go, oh wow, she really was significantly less crazy, and then she took the water of life and the baby woke up in her, and then she
was always scheming.
Yeah.
And then, but after that,
she went into overdrive. But she had some reservations about her own scheming as she was doing it, which I think was interesting. And
then the water of life happened, and she's literally been awakened from She's literally been both awakened and driven insane due to the knowledge of all Bene Gesserits that came before her.
Right.
And using the Bene
and not
Gesserit,
just her having that, but also the baby.
the baby having that too,
which is something I didn't
and being able
really-
to psychically communicate between Paul, the baby, and herself, all three. They're able to.
I didn't. It took the second watching for me to really click. Like, oh, that's what's happening in the Water of Life scene. Like, they show the baby's eyes opening and awakening. I didn't quite. I didn't know where the plot was going. I didn't know where the plot was going at that point, so I wasn't sure how to interpret different visuals. Second time through, the visuals are very, they're clear.
They're very
it's
clear.
It's a weird subplot, and apparently in the books it's even wilder.
Well, because in the books, they're not psychically talking to a baby.
Yeah.
It's just a murder child little toddler.
Well, but there's like a time skip, kind of.
Yeah, who has a full sense of communication.
As a child, I liked how they did it in the
I prefer how they did
it. Especially without having like such a big time skip jump thing.
Yeah.
That it made a lot more sense. I also liked the changes they made to the character of Chani. Having her take more individual agency and question what Paul is up to more.
Yeah.
I think that was a necessary thing to do in the movie sense, to have a strong character questioning him. So
especially one who was so close to him.
Yeah.
No one else would be allowed to question him like she is.
Yeah.
But also no one else, it wouldn't have the same weight if it was anyone else.
Mm-hmm.
If Stilgar started questioning him, oh, that makes sense. He's the leader of a gang of freedom fighters who has to look out for his people.
Right.
Why wouldn't he be questioning the intentions of this random white boy who pulls up?
Stilgar becomes such a glazer of Paul halfway through.
He really does. And
it's a natural development.
It's a natural development.
It's still fun.
It's so funny, but it's also kind of depressing how far he falls.
Yeah.
From being a fully, not in oh, they ruined this. No, in a how far he in universe is falling.
Yeah.
From going from a fully realized character to
Paul's hype man.
To Paul Muad'Dib Atreides' biggest glazer.
They do some
to the point where he's he could barely hold himself back from praising him while Paul was getting his ass kicked by Frey Roth. He had to hold it in for so long. Lisa
This is written.
Why is this written?
There's a reason he's one of the memes of the movie. Is it just
out of context? It's so funny, but then in context, it's still funny, but also so devastating.
Even in context, the bit where he's so humble. That is literally Life of Brian. I think I whispered.
Praise the Messiah.
I think I whispered Life of Brian. This is just Life of Brian to you when we watched it the first time.
It's so good. But I like that. I love that they're playing into this anti-chosen one narrative.
Yeah.
Where it's Paul is the chosen one, but he really fucking doesn't want to be because he knows what's going to happen. He knows exactly what's going to happen.
There's such a sense of helplessness in that middle section of the movie after the Fade Ralpha chunk, where Paul hasn't drank in the water of life yet, but you can just feel all the circumstances of the plot forcing him to the south of the planet, forcing him into that.
And he knows what's going to happen if he goes south, but he can't stop.
But he literally can't not because everything around him.
If he doesn't go south, the Fremen don't win the war.
And another thing that I appreciated more the second time was the first time I was kind of why is Gurney back? What purpose does Gurney serve? But watching it the second time, I was Gurney is useful because it provides somebody from his old life,
to show how much he's changed.
Yeah.
But also, it's another great source of bad influence on Paul.
Yes. Yeah. It took a second viewing for me to realize how much Gurney was also whispering in Paul's ear with bad ideas, and not intentionally.
No.
But through this
they follow the Messiah.
Yeah.
What's wrong with being the Messiah? I'm scared of what I'll unleash. Because you lose control? Because I gain it.
Right. Get a good example. And just the general, the symbolism and theming of him ditching his father's ring, and you see him fully involving himself in Fremen life, and rewatching him okay, Gurney showing up is the beginning of him re-entering the like Atreides Harkonnen dynasty way of thinking.
Which is so damaging to him.
Yeah.
Especially when he finds out that I don't even know if I want to do spoilers because it's so like spoilers. He's a Harkonnen.
Yeah.
His mom was the daughter of the Duke Harkonnen. She didn't even know that.
Baron.
She didn't even know that until she took the water of life. But they're as much an heir to House Harkonnen as they are Atreides.
That's another great reveal, and I like that it's not revealed when he drinks the water. It's revealed when he has the conversation with her afterward. Like good plotting on the movie.
And like I love how much this weighs on them because their whole way of life has not just been about like fighting the Harkonnens. It's about not being them.
Right. Yeah.
And so what do they finally? And so how do they finally win the war?
By
being by fighting like Harkonnens.
With trickery and brutality and
It's so brilliant because like Paul is truly the true marriage of the two houses, but not in a good way.
Not in a good way.
He inspires all of the fervent militism of his father, with all of the cunning and brutality of the Harkonnens. A combination deadly enough to shatter the world, and shatter the world he does because after engaging in after engaging the Empire, cornering the Emperor, killing the Duke and his heir, he starts the Holy War.
Yep.
And he knows he's going to. He knows where it's going to lead, and he still
does it.
He still does it, and he still can't. He still knows he can't stop it.
It's such a sinking feeling when he's leading all of
the line of him saying "lead them to paradise" is so sad.
Especially when you realize he's not bringing the paradise to Arrakis. He's leading them off-world to go fight foes away from their planet somewhere else.
Yeah.
And that's when I was like, oh shit, they're leaving the planet. Like this isn't just
they're leading.
This is now Paul's. The second they leave the planet, it's not their fight anymore. It's Paul's that they're like following.
But because it's Lisa and Al Gaib, they will follow it to death.
And that's why Chani's staying on the planet and doing whatever she's gonna do is a really And shoutouts to the soundtrack. I mean, the soundtrack is really good. They use the Aima thing just the right amount. Like they use it when he first harnesses the power of the worm. They use it after he drinks the water, and I think they use it towards the end.
Yeah.
And it's like
there's also this really fucking amazing scene. Like, and it would still be amazing, but it would not be like this is the perfect movie, greatest movie of all. Like this would not the scene of him going to the south after drinking the water, and he crosses the desert, and the worms are coming up behind him, and the music is like this, it's almost a horror film. It's like this really low bassy guitar, and then with punctuated by these string, these just out of nowhere almost jump scary high strings that come in it's like boom, boom, bird, and it's this. It's such a good shot and overhead, and it's such a subtle brilliance the way he's portrayed, because up until this point, the Harkonnens have been portrayed as pure black. Their outfits, their skin is
the black
marble
and white colors.
But they have a black and white color scheme. Their outfits, their uniforms, all black. When they appear on the horizon or when you see them at a distance, they're nothing more than an inky black silhouette.
Mm-hmm.
Fremens, even though they wear darker colors grays and browns, they look and their skin tones are much earthier. When they're in a unified mass, they have this white kind of holy effervescent glow to them.
Yeah, they have a.
And Paul is like that too, for most of the movie, until he drinks the water of life, and suddenly he's cloaked in this. He wears this dark cloak that hides his entire form, and he becomes a shadowy mass as he moves through the crowd, and it looks like an open wound.
Oh god, the monologue.
The run up to the monologue and then the monologue.
To deliver that monologue that well, in most of it in a fictional
fake language
is insane as an actor. Like,
and to not it never feels ridiculous.
No,
and not only does it not feel ridiculous, it doesn't feel.
Not only does it not feel ridiculous, you don't even notice it. Like
no.
It's only after watching the movie was I like,
oh yeah, this is a fantasy. And it's only after that scene where you're like, oh yeah, this is a fantasy movie. I almost forgot.
Yeah, and only after watching the movie did I realize, wow, at least 30% of the dialogue in this movie was in a fictional alien fantasy language.
Yeah.
And it didn't stand out at all. I was so immersed that it was not weird or distracting in any way. That's crazy.
Cinema.
My particular soundtrack scene parallel bit that I really love is there's one song, and it's used twice in the movie. It's used first when Chani and Paul kiss for the first time, and then it plays the sort of time lapse sequence. Yeah. The song that plays in that scene.
If this was a straight one-to-one adaptation of the book, the implied time jump.
And there is an implied time jump. It's not more it's 6 months
as opposed to 6 years.
Years. I think it's 2 years.
But because the baby grows supernaturally fast.
Yeah, but
still.
But in this movie, it's 6 months max. Yeah. Is how I interpreted that.
6 months.
God damn it.
We'll get there.
But I love that scene has the song's called something like Quiet Before the Storm or something like that. And
the one I was talking about earlier is called Arrival.
Okay. Yeah, we both have different songs we plucked out of the center. That's the one I noticed because it's used in that scene. And it's used the music swells right after they kiss and plays so dramatically through that whole time-lapse section. But then the second time they use that music is at the very end, is at the end of the film.
When
the whole last sequence when everyone is leaving the planet and she's leaving them.
His hope, his heart is leaving.
Yeah, so it's
like he could do any of this as long as he had her by his side.
Yeah, it's such
and she's leaving.
It's such a gorgeous track. It starts out very in the background, sort of small, underwhelming, kind of like the desert mouse, quiet, unassuming, and it grows into this song that sounds kind of loving, but also tragic at the same time. This very big sweeping piece.
I saw someone make a funny letterbox collection of films about girls, films about brown-haired girls falling in love with the devil. and it's this, Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, and I think Star Wars.
Ballad of Songbirds, that was a good movie. Have you seen that movie?
No, but I heard it was good.
I made a whole review of it that was 40 minutes long. Sometimes I just but I thought that movie. I gave that movie a 9 out of 10 on Letterboxd.
Damn.
I really thought it was really good. Easily my favorite Hunger Games movie.
Dang. I like the first 2 Hunger Games.
Yeah, I like both of those, but that one just really. I think this isn't a review of that movie, but that movie was good.
Well, it's similar themes of
It does have similar.
That similar theme of someone who not necessarily I don't know if it's the same with in Hunger Games, but it's what they're going to become.
Yeah.
And even they may know it. But the fact that they can't stop it.
I think
no matter and every attempt they make just makes it more inevitable.
There is something. I do think the protagonists of those 2 movies are somewhat similar. I feel but they're also kind of reversed in a way. Where Snow in the Hunger Games feels like somebody who he consistently. If you walk, this is about that movie that I thought was really interesting about his character in the Hunger Games prequel. He consistently does evil things throughout the movie, but at first he's doing them for the right reasons, and in the back half of the movie he's doing them for the wrong reasons. So you that's how he becomes a villain.
Right.
Is you stop rooting for him.
Whereas
Paul is kind of flipped, where he
starts out doing heroic things, and then from a certain point of view he keeps doing heroic things. but for the wrong reasons.
Yeah,
and then eventually he's just going to become an out-and-out tyrant.
Yeah, it's kind of they both lead to the same endpoint, but it's interesting how they're sort of inverses.
Yeah. And it's like Paul can totally, and like it's not just like dramatic. Like he drank the water of life. He knows the past, and because he's the most powerful of the Jesuits to ever exist, he also knows the future. Mm-hmm. So he knows where this leads. Yeah. And he still can't stop.
Yeah. Ooh.
Speaking of knowing where things lead and not being able to stop.
That's actually an awesome transition. Let's go.
She's quite beautiful! She's quite beautiful!
He was in the Amazon with my mother right before, for 6 months until he expires, right before she died.
They were cowards for cutting that line out of the movie. Or I don't even think they cut it completely, they just like cut it in half.
Well, that line was clearly so stitched together in the trailer.
Yeah.
Like, because every shot, like every other line feels like it came from a different place, and then every other shot is for a different scene.
That whole movie feels like it was stitched together at trailer point.
Like someone trying to because they were trying to connect the web. Her web
connects them all.
Her web connects us all. Her web connects us all.
In a web of fear.
Oh my god! I don't even want to.
I did already make a video on Madame Web a while back. It did not get unfortunately did not get very many views. I think I missed the hype period. What?
Anyway, continue.
But I still want to talk about it on the FEARcast.
I do.
It's such a FEARcast movie.
My god!
It exists.
Let's get the elephant out of the room.
Well, I was just gonna say it exists in the same glorious space as movies like Cats and I'm Number 4.
I have it somewhere. It's over there.
You have I'm Number 4 or Cats?
I have both, but I have an I'm Number 4. I think I'm Number 4 is better, for example, because I'm Number 4 is enjoyably bad, as opposed to Cats, which is just spectacular.
Yeah.
Which is just spectacularly.
Madame Web has the enjoyability of I'm Number 4 and the spectacular terribleness of Cats.
It's genuinely impressive how bad, how nothing about this movie works. And speaking of how nothing about this movie works, let's just get the elephant out of the room. Why does the villain sound like that?
Why is the villain dubbed like?
Why does he sound like that? In case you don't know, it's very obvious. Every single line, not just like every other line, every single line of the main villain, who is this like wannabe the boys version of Spider-Man, like
he is like the boys Spider-Man. Oh my god!
This evil Spider-Man who's a billionaire trying to kill those Spider-Women before they become evil, before they become Spider-Women, because he doesn't want to lose his fortune. And like,
I can't lose everything I've earned.
And it's every line
is ADR.
And it's like, ADR is not bad. It's not good. It just is. It's something that happens in filmmaking.
Usually it's less obvious.
Yeah, usually it's less obvious. And like, I think Folding Ideas, the Ben Olsen, this like film reviewer, he makes a point. He's like, ADR is not bad or good. It's a helpful tool for correcting mistakes. However, a lot of ADR usage usually means there's been a lot of mistakes.
Yeah. So it's like, what happened with the bad guy that
what happened?
ADR?
Like, not just every other line, not just a lot of lines. Like, I think I saw like 2 or 3 lines that were clearly his original line.
The only one I can think of off the top of my head that didn't feel ADR was him going, "Did you just say web?"
Yeah.
That was because, but that's like such a short, simple line.
Literally, like, and it's so badly hidden because he's either always like covering his mouth, or he's like always like face always just off screen, or sometimes they just don't even bother trying to hide it. They just literally show that what he's saying does not match what his mouth is saying.
I said this in my review, but I'm convinced that some of the shots they ADR'd over were reaction shots of him listening while other, like, not even shots where he was talking.
Right.
Because there are some shots where he stands there and his mouth barely moves, and an entire line of dialogue plays over his barely moving. It looks like a ventriloquism act.
It's like maybe his like lip is like moving slightly.
Yeah, it'll be like twitching slightly, but it's like, what's going on here? Like, I would not be surprised if, because...
Like, was the actor doing just a really intense accent that just they decided didn't work, so they scrapped it?
Which is weird because he's still doing an accent.
Can the actor just straight up not act? Did someone give him some shellfish and he had a severe allergic reaction on set? Like, no, I'm not joking. I genuinely want to know what happened.
Yeah.
How did we get here?
I need an interview with him to figure out what his process was for making this movie, because oh my god.
Not even his, like, what was his process of making this movie, and what was the editor's process? Why did the editor choose to do that?
Yeah.
Why did the editor choose to do so many of these things in this movie? Okay, so another thing I want to talk about real quick before we like talk about the major problems of this movie. There's this running thing where Madam Web, Cassie Webb, yes, that's her name, has visions of, like...
As it is written.
As it is written. She has these visions of, like, this giant electrical S. And they keep appearing in her visions. She keeps getting visions of the S. She keeps getting visions of the S, right? She keeps, okay.
The S is symbolism for Spider-Man and who knows what else.
But, like, they keep bringing it back, and then like they get to a big factory with Pepsi Cola, and then like they linger specifically on the S for a while, and you're like, okay, I get it. They're setting it up. The S is going to be important for like whatever Cassie's plan is. The S is going to be important. Like, and then they keep showing it, and then like when she's on the roof, they keep cutting back to her looking at the S, and you're like, okay, I get like, I don't know, I think it's stupid, but I think it's stupid, but as an intelligent, as an average film watcher, I get it. I understand. The S is gonna be important. And so she's on the runway where the S is. And you know, and then it all comes to fruition. The villain is killed by the falling letter P.
Not the S. The P. Which I genuinely wonder if that was a mistake.
I feel like that's a good sort of representation of this film.
That like anything that you think would make sense or be like the logical film. Everything that
your normal human brain of having experienced the 100 plus years of filmmaking,
and especially the last like 20 years of superhero movies,
says like, okay, I know what, like, I may not know the specifics of this story, but I'm a smart film watcher. I know what's happening. I know where this is going, and then it just does it.
It just does something else.
Does it,
and it's always something so stupid.
Oh my god!
The I Am Number 4 comparison I especially like because whenever
they do something similar in I Am Number 4, right? Where it's like
kind of,
they have doesn't like they use like that buzzsaw, and you're like, oh, the buzzsaw is gonna kill him, and then like a dog comes in and kills him.
Maybe, I don't remember, but I was gonna say that comparison is accurate because whenever Ezekiel Sims, that's the villain's name by the way, he doesn't have a super villain name. He's just Ezekiel Sims. Whenever he showed up whenever we cut back to him, I got excitement. I got the kind of excitement I have not felt since the Mogadorian.
Which is so funny because he has none of the swagger of the Mogadorian.
No, he's utterly charmless.
But in a certain way, that's kind of charming. That's kind of what's charming about it.
So like,
he's not even that. He's like, oh, he's intentionally unlikable. He just isn't. He just isn't a character. Just isn't a character. He's a walking plot device.
One of his earliest scenes is him he seduces the NSA agent to get her tech, and he's monologuing to her in bed, and it's supposed to be sexy.
Sexy but scary?
It is neither. It is not as sexy, it is not scary, but it's also not gross or unsexy, it is just nothing. It's just
It's just him espousing about how he keeps having these dreams of 3 women dressed like spiders killing him using powers, and so he knows that this vision takes place in the future. So he has to try. So he's going to use whatever resources he has to try and stop them.
And it is just him delivering that information.
If that sounds if that sounds overly convoluted and kind of boring, yes.
Yeah. Welcome to the movie.
And then there's the. How drunk do you think Dakota Johnson was in
Oh my
Sagas?
god. I kind of love her performance in it. Not that it's like good, but I love how little of a shit she gives and how little of a shit the character gives by extension.
Like, I'm not joking. Like, I feel like I don't mean to imply that she has an alcohol problem. I'm just saying, like, I think she was how many of those scenes do you think she was recording drunk?
Probably a lot. You want to imagine,
because she gives off the energy of like your tipsy aunt having a little bit too much fun doing karaoke.
You know, it would make sense if she had every time she had a Pepsi can, maybe there was alcohol in there. Like, she has a lot of Pepsi cans.
Instead of a Pepsi can, it was a wine glass.
Because there's a lot of fucking Pepsi cans.
Well, because Pepsi's beats the villain.
Yeah, Madam Web doesn't beat. She uses that split body ability and does jack shit all with it after using it once and spending the whole movie trying to learn it.
One of my favorite things about this movie is that it feels the need for Madam Web to earn her blindness and her handicap status.
Yeah.
It's not because Cassie Webb doesn't start the movie blind or handicapped. But she ends the movie blind and handicapped
after she falls in the water.
She falls in the water
like
and gets hit by like a fucking rocket or something. I don't know.
I think the S fell on her.
Oh my god! No, it didn't. It was like just a bottle rocket.
Okay, I don't fucking. That last action scene is more incoherent than I could possibly describe to you.
I mean, I could tell you. I mean, what do you want me to? I could tell you about how like. The movie sets up how each like future Spider-Woman's gimmick of like, oh, she's like the smart one, she's the skater, she's like the emotional heart of the team, and then I could tell you about how that none of that matters because the smart one uses a boomerang, the skater uses 4 giant spider legs, and Sydney Sweeney, the like emotional one, her powers are like energy beams.
Was this shown in the movie, or was this?
It's showing
because they only use powers in the weird vision at the end.
The future vision.
Yeah.
They don't get
their powers.
This isn't a hero origin story. It's just a story about an angry guy trying to kill free.
It's also a story about the birth of Peter Parker, except they never say his name. Like they
again, another great example of this movie's filmmaking. They go to great lengths to establish that Mary Parker, the mother of Peter Parker, is. And wife of Ben, sister of Ben Parker, who becomes Uncle Ben.
Yeah.
Are in this movie, and that Mary is very pregnant, and that the baby is probably going to be due soon. Maybe not.
They have to drive her to the hospital.
They drive her to the hospital. Like they have a scene establishing, giving people baby names. Cassie is in the scene.
They lampshade this. And go so far, but they never quite connect the dots. It's like in there so much that you're like, why is this here?
And you're like, oh, I get it. It's like Cassie's gonna unintentionally name the baby Peter. No! In fact, the baby never gets named. You would only know that this is supposed to be Peter Parker because you know that that's Uncle Ben!
It's like the weirdest,
Also, what's with all this spider symbolism?
It's maybe...
What's with all this... Why I understand why Cassie has the spider symbolism because her mom got bit by the Native
American spider people.
Because the Native American spider people try to save her. Real non-fictional Native American spider people descend from the treetops to try to save Cassie Webb's mother's life. But they using spider powers, but they're only able to save her infant daughter who was born who was going to be born with like a fatal disease or something.
I don't fucking know. She goes back to the Amazon at one point to meet with the spider person, but he doesn't have his stupid native spider suit on anymore. Because I think they realized that was racist halfway through production and decided they weren't going to do it again.
What do you think came first? What do you think came first? The racist spider people or that scene with Cassie arriving in South America?
Probably the racist spider people one, I guess.
I don't even know.
She literally, like, the girls are in danger, and she says, "Yeah, I'll be back in a week. I've got to go to the Amazon. I'm just gonna leave them with Uncle Ben."
This is a guy whose stated goal is to kill 3 teenagers.
And he has NSA technology to
He is
find
tracking every single electronic interaction they have. And she leaves them alone for 3 weeks.
She's definitely not gone. She was gone for like a day, though.
She was gone for 6 months. They do a 6 months joke in this. It's barely a joke, but like one of the characters is like a Latina, and like I don't want to say ethnicity because I don't think they give it a specific ethnicity.
They're vague.
But like her dad's papers don't clear, so her dad gets deported, and she's been deported. And she says her dad has been deported for 6 months.
6 months reference?
Also, all of the girls have like. You think that's bad? You think that's bad? My parents are
Thank
rich.
you for fixing the delivery to be more accurate.
No, wait, it's you think that's bad? My mom and dad are rich billionaires, but they don't love me.
Right? No, so
You think that's bad? You think that's bad? I have a stepmom.
And then the last girl is the one who's like, "You think that's bad? My dad got deported." It's like, whoa.
And then Cassie's like, "Well, you know, being an orphan isn't such a big deal." They bond over their shared not having good parents, I guess. No, they don't. By the end of this movie, they're a family unit, and I guess Cassie adopts them, except fuck no, she
I
wouldn't.
think the last line is the best thing about the future, dramatic pause, is that it hasn't happened yet. What an absolutely terrible and like stupid line of dialogue.
My favorite thing about the ending is that they just straight up reuse some footage from Spider-Man 2 in it. And then follow it up with like this like montage of like the things you would have wanted to actually see in a Spider-Man origin movie from Adam Webb, where you see the three ladies as grown-up Spider people doing heroics for like 5 seconds each, and then you see fucking Cassie and her
the stupidest suit ever.
Oh, so dumb.
No, it's comic accurate. I don't know if it looks dumb.
It was dumb in the comics too. Adam Webb.
My God. What a movie.
Her web connects us all.
Her web connects us all.
Her web connects us all. Her web connects us all. Her web connects us all.
Get the lightsaber.
No, the lightsaber doesn't work anymore.
No.
It's like broken.
Oh wait, hold on. Is this can empty? You should destroy. That can be represented. Pretend it's a Pepsi.
Don't look at her web connects us all. 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 P.